Community Plan Amendment to the Claremont Mesa Community Plan. The community plan, the subject site is currently zoned, The initiation request proposes 3 items: to redesignate a 4.09 acre site from commercial community center to residential high 45 to 73 dwelling units per acre, to amend the community plan implementation overlay zone from CPOS type B to type A, which would allow residential use and provide site design standards for the site, and 3, allow rezoning of the site from commercial office 1-2 to residential multifamily 3-9. The 4.09 acre site was a former site of the Claremont General Hospital. It was acquired by the County of San Diego in 1989 and has been occupied by the County of San Diego Sheriff's Criminal Investigations Division, also known as the Sheriff's Crime Lab, since 1994. This is the site situated west of Genesee Avenue between Balboa Avenue and Mount Etna Drive, and is located within the commercial core of the Claremont Community Planning Area. And it consists of 2 large commercial retail shopping centers, strip commercial, and medical office buildings. The site is located in close proximity to MTS routes 27 and 41, which run along Balboa Avenue and Genesee Avenue, respectively. Land uses adjacent to the crime lab include commercial retail and office uses located to the north, south, and east. To the west of the crime lab site is a 150-foot San Diego gas and electric transmission line corridor with single-family residences located further west. Multifamily residential borders the northern, eastern, and southern boundaries of the community core. This is a more close-up of existing sites existing uses which include multi-story medical office buildings and some low-scale retail. In addition to the commercial retail, the buildings on site include a 1-story building approximately 66,000 square feet in size and a 2-story building approximately 36,000 square feet in size for the crime lab. These are existing elevations of the site. Public facilities in the vicinity of the crime lab include the Balboa Branch Library, Fire Station number 36, as well as parks and public schools. While public facilities appear to be available, their adequacy would be studied as part of the amendment process should be initiated. The 1989 Claremont Community Plan designates the subject site as Commercial Community Center. The community plan also applies the community plan implementation overlay zone type B within the commercial core, which does not permit residential uses in order to preserve the community core as a commercial center for the community. Additionally, the CPOS type B applies a site development permit for development within the core and establishes architectural and design standards to ensure that development occurs within a unifying architectural sign, landscaping theme, which includes pedestrian walkways and bikeways. The subject site is zoned Commercial Office 1-2. The proposed amendment would allow high-density residential development on site where none are currently permitted by the community plan. Based on the proposed amendment, 184 to 299 multifamily housing units would be allowed. While not part of the proposed amendment, 100% affordable housing development could seek a 50% density bonus, which could potentially allow up to 448 housing units. The proposed amendment would also allow ministerial processing under CPOS Type A upon compliance with architectural and site design standards already identified in the community plan, and those that could be further developed during the community plan amendment process should the initiation be approved. These are current demographics in the community. What's interesting to note is that from the period of 2000 to 2016, housing production only increased by only 0.5% or by 171 units in this period. These are the existing affordable housing units as depicted or indicated by the San Diego Housing Commission Affordable Housing Resource Guide in proximity of the subject site. Planning efforts in the community consist of the Morena Apartment Homes Community Plan Amendment, which is a 150-unit condominium project that proposes to redesignate 6.21 acres from low-density residential to mobile home park to medium-density residential. The Morena Corridor and Balboa Avenue Station area specific plans are also ongoing 2 separate planning efforts focused along Morena and Balboa Avenue, where mobility improvements are proposed to support the Mid-Coast Trolley. Although no land uses are proposed in adjacent communities where these specific planning efforts coincide, no land use changes are included in Claremont, but will be addressed as part of the current plan update. As discussed in the staff report, staff finds that the proposed amendment meets the 3 initiation criteria in the general plan. The proposed initiation would meet housing element and community plan policies for providing housing opportunities to a diverse range of income groups, as well as locating higher density housing in commercial areas supported by transit. The initiation request has the potential to provide additional affordable housing opportunities within the community, as well as to locate these housing units conveniently in close proximity to transit, employment, and goods and services. As shown in a previous slide, public facilities appear available to serve the proposed increase in density and intensity. Should the initiation be approved, the provision and availability of public facilities would be further analyzed. On November 20th, 2018, the Claremont Community Planning Group made 2 motions regarding the initiation, which include 1, denial of the initiation request, as the Community Planning Group expressed that the proposed amendment did not meet the initiation criteria related to consistency with goals of the community plan, providing a public benefit, and the adequacy of public facilities. And 2, recommending that the applicant pursue an alternative review process that would allow community review for more project details. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission initiate the plan amendment process to the Claremont Mesa Community Plan. This initiation request, if approved by the Planning Commission, would not constitute endorsement of the plan amendment or project proposal. Should the initiation be approved, the following issues would be analyzed as part of the community plan amendment process, which relate to analysis of impact to public facilities, to existing circulation, as well as compatibility and design. This concludes staff's presentation. We are available for for questions. Thank you.
Are there any clarifying questions for staff? Seeing none, I'm going to start by asking that everyone be respectful. I appreciate that you've been here since 9 a.m. and in that regard, we are not going to take a lunch break and make you sit any longer while we take a break, but I would ask that if your placards could stay in place without moving them, and we just be respectful of each other's opinions. I also want to clarify that we have 2 commissioners that will be gone, one by 1:30 and one by 1:45. In light of that, I'd like to make sure we have as many commissioners here as possible. And so we will be asking everyone to speak for no more than 1 minute. The order in which I'm taking the application first of the applicant, then the chair of the Mount Etna Initiation Subcommittee for the Claremont Planning Group, who has a time constraint and needs to leave. So I'm allowing you to speak even though that you're in opposition. Then I'll follow that with those in favor and then followed by those in opposition. So I just respectfully ask for you to go in this order in which I am laying out today. The other thing is, if someone has spoken and given an opinion that you agree with, there's nothing wrong with saying I concur with the previous speaker. And also, if you are in favor or in opposition and you just want to give your name as either in favor or in opposition and choose not to speak, that's also within your purview. And we will respectfully listen to all people that are here. So with that, I would like to go through, and I will read names. That way, for every person that is present, you have to be present to be accounted for. I'll read all the names so we can tally to make sure that the time is provided. David Estrella with the County of San Diego. Yara Fisher. Mark Cass. Krista Ellis. Jody Mays. Angela Jackson Lamas. Philippe Merillo. Annabelle Poole. Scott Brown. Derek Denzinger. Is it Hamil Wade? I just butchered your name, I realized. Thank you. So that would be 11 minutes for Mr. Estrella. If you can please start. I will follow our protocol that I will then read the next person to speak. And I would ask, so that we could keep things moving, that when your name is read to speak, and I will give 2 more names, that you please come to the front and stand to the side so that we can keep things moving and we don't have to wait for you to walk from the back of the room. Thank you very much. Mr. Estrella.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Estrella. I'm Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development Services, County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency. I'll be doing a joint presentation with Yara Fisher, Principal Planner, and Mark Cass, who is a member of our County Department of General Services. We live in a region of over 3 million people where housing affordability and availability is an ever-increasing problem. It is likely that most everyone here today either knows someone who has, or perhaps you yourself have experienced challenges in maintaining safe, decent, and affordable housing. According to the 2018 Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, our county is lacking more than 170,000 housing units region-wide. The city of San Diego alone accounts for over 88,000 of those needed units, of which 54,000 represent the affordable housing need for very low to moderate income households. These are units that house our veterans, teachers, seniors, people like you and me. In order to address this housing crisis, the County Board of Supervisors has taken several steps over the last few years. Most recently, they have directed staff to identify excess county land that can be used for affordable housing. Originally, 11 sites were identified as potential sites for affordable housing development. Before you today, there is a site that can address the most pressing need for so many families in San Diego. Why is this first step so important? The County of San Diego's vision is for a region that is building better health, living safely, and thriving. However, the vision can't be achieved without housing. Decent, affordable housing is important to individuals and families. It fulfills a basic human need for shelter, but it also contributes to the well-being of individuals and both parents and children. Studies show that children in stable housing do better in school and are less likely to experience disruption in their education due to unwanted moves. Decent, affordable housing reduces stress, toxins, and infectious disease, which leads to improvement in both physical and mental health. Affordable housing also frees up funds within families' tight budgets to spend on healthcare and foods. Studies have shown that children whose parents receive housing assistance benefit from better nutrition. For parents living in decent, affordable housing, it also means reduced stress due to a lessening of concern that high housing costs will lead to foreclosures or evictions. This in turn leads to fewer physical and mental health problems and reduced absenteeism on the job. Affordable housing also is important to the economic vitality of communities. It can attract and retain employees to the community, a selling point and a competitive advantage for area employers. Affordable homes also support the local workforce, so they can live close to their jobs. In revitalizing communities, the construction of affordable housing can help to stimulate economic growth. A healthy mix of housing options from market rate and affordable rental housing, single-family homes and duplexes, as well as developments for seniors, ensures opportunities for all individuals to improve their economic situation and contribute to their communities. Today, we are seeking your approval so that no neighborhoods are out of reach for our growing population. In light of our goals for affordable housing and the availability of the Mount Etna site, we are asking that the Planning Commission allow us to initiate an amendment to the community plan. With the approval of the initiation, the county will begin the community plan amendment process and prepare an environmental impact report. This is the first formal step. If approved, these are the questions that will be further evaluated and provide answers to traffic and parking concerns, availability of services, safety, and infrastructure improvements. At this time, I'd like to introduce Yara Fisher, Principal Planner. Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. My name is Yara Fisher. I'm with AECOM, and today the county is asking us to just start the process of amending the Claremont Community Plan to allow for residential high at the site. This would allow for a range of dwelling units from 184 to 448 dwelling units with density bonus, as Marlon suggested. We also are looking to remove the commercial core, community core, commercial design standards of the CPAWS B, and then add CPAWS A design standards that would relate to the residential development and address concerns that we've heard over site compatibility, design, access, and other local improvements. Associated actions that will be taken and analyzed in an EIR include the zone change to RM3-9 and also site demolition. And all of these activities together, the county entitling the process, pursuing site demolition, and undergoing the environmental analysis is all intended to make affordable housing more feasible on the site for a developer to come forward. Next slide, please. As we know, we need to meet 3 initiation criteria: the consistency with plans, public benefits, and availability of public services. And because Marlon walked through all these very well, I'll try to do this quickly. First, with the consistent with goals and policies of the plan. The next slide, please. The general plan has been in place since 2008, and it envisions a City of Villages strategy with mixed-use infill urban village centers. And there are several goals within the general plan and the community plan that also encourage a variety of housing types and affordability levels, particularly near commercial uses and along transportation corridors. Introducing residential high development at this location that has an abundance of employment and retail opportunities already in the area complies with all of these goals. Next slide, please. We must also look at the additional public benefits that the project would bring, and this project would bring many public benefits in addition to providing affordable homes near transit, shopping, and employment. There's also the opportunity to provide those community services for seniors and other residents that would be open to the public and activate that bottom floor. People that may benefit from this include middle-income families, people who are developmentally disabled, and seniors. If approved, the county will work with the community and city staff to identify enhanced streetscapes and improvements around the site through that CPAS A design standards. This would also help the city meet broader city housing and climate action goals within a transit priority area. The public facilities, again, the site's been served since 1961 and has had a variety of uses. The EIR will also address all public facilities in detail. Just to get close to wrapping up here, we did want to go over our process with you real quickly. With your agreement today that the project meets the initiation criteria, we would continue on this multi-year community plan amendment and EIR process. The process began in earnest with the city back in August when we submitted the initiation application. Since that time, we've had 5 public meetings with the community, including scoping meetings and community planning group meetings. And from these meetings, we have heard a lot of concerns regarding the density, land use compatibility, parking, traffic, and availability of public facilities. So we have collected all of these comments. We received these through mail, through verbal comments at the meetings, through emails, and we all expect these to be able to help inform the CPA, especially the design standards, the CPAS A design standards, as well as the EIR content. So if we are allowed to move forward with this timeline, the county and the county would begin work on the CPA with the city and the community in 2019. And during this time, we'll work with the city and the community to develop the content of both the CPA and the EIR. This is really also where community outreach would commence and increase. We'd consider technical studies during this process. Our goal is to get toward late summer toward public review of the EIR and the community plan amendment, with going to city council in the fall. And developer application could then follow from this and that would be expected in 2020 through 2023. So in this process, we just outlined, as we heard, and I'm sure you're going to hear today, there are many community concerns, and we're just at the start of this process, and we'd really like to be able to address these through further community meetings. By approving this initiation request, you would provide us the opportunity to study and respond to the concerns we've heard, and we just hope that we'll be able to move forward, and we also can answer any specific questions that you may have about the application or the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a couple questions for the applicant.
Yes, clarifying questions.
So based on that timeline, are you pretty much locked into a development project? I mean, has it been designed yet?
No, this is actually exactly sort of the opposite. We did a feasibility study that said in order to increase the attractiveness and of the site for affordable housing development and to help remove some of those constraints to affordable housing development, the recommendations of our feasibility study were look for the county to take on the burden of going through a community plan amendment process, looking at the entitlements. So we determined from the site and its location that a residential only type of development would be best suited for the site, and to undertake that as well as the other recommendations for the feasibility study to look at demolition and also undertake the environmental study so that we're taking on some of those things. The concurrent process, the selected developer that everything's not inked yet either, they had submitted concepts, but those are being worked through with the community, and they would be going on a concurrent timeline, having several meetings, and I believe Buddy Bohr from Chelsea Investment is also here to kind of describe that process too. He has a speaker slip to describe that process. But no, we're asking for the range for the residential development, and then so that a project can be kind of further worked through and refined during this time.
Okay, and are you locked into all residential versus some mixed-use component?
I think the preference at this point is residential. There are certain financial, leasing, and operational problems and issues sometimes that we have with affordable housing developments and mixed use, and so we'd prefer to have the residential only also to maximize the residential affordability on site, so that is the preference. During the EIR process, we've heard of a recommendation for another zone to be looked at. And I think definitely that zone, if determined, feasible, we can look at that zone in the EIR and whether it reduces any of the potential impacts or concerns that the community has.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Commissioner,
I need to. I originally was going to be recusing myself and went through with the Ethics Commission what I couldn't do. He said it was okay, and it was for a different reason. I now know there's another reason. I haven't spoken on this issue, so I think I'm still in safe zone here. I think I should leave so there's no apparent conflict of interest. Is that okay?
Absolutely. If you believe you have an economic conflict of interest,
Yep.
you should recuse yourself.
I do. Thank you.
Commissioner Suchi.
Yes, I have a question for staff. Currently, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there's currently a community plan update going on, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the question is, this would be integral to what they are doing in relationship to what we're hearing today.
Yes, it would. So as part of this amendment proposal, we would respect the proposal and incorporate that into our process, our plan update process.
Yes, I just want to make sure that's integral to the community plan update that is currently going on, that it work with that from both sides.
And I would also add that we are going to be having detailed discussions as well as a community workshop in the upcoming years. So the project applicant team would also get the benefit of that input for this site as well as the larger community.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we would take the Claremont Community Planning Group member. I believe the chair has had to leave, so I'm going a little out of order, but out of deference to the community group. Matt Valente.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioner Pearson. I appreciate you pushing me ahead because I do have to leave shortly. And I appreciate the opportunity to present the Claremont Community Planning Group's recommendation on this initiation request. As you know, the planning group voted by 14-1 to recommend denial of the initiation request. And before I get to the exact reasons, let me just back up and explain our process. As you know, there is a considerable community opposition and consternation at this project. However, when we approached it, and when I approached it as chair of the subcommittee that was examining this initiation request, we took a look at it and just wanted to see, did the applicant comply with the relevant policy? We kind of put the blinders on, and we weren't so much interested in all the nitty-gritty details, many of which we don't know yet. But what we really wanted to do was take a look at the policy that is required to be complied with and see if the applicant indeed complied. So to that effort, we took a look at the initiation letter, the initiation request letter that was submitted by the applicant, the county, and other supporting documentation that they provided. I also made public records requests of the county. This is a somewhat unusual situation where the applicant is a public entity and is obviously bound by the California Public Records Act. And we felt that we would be remiss and negligent in our examination of this request if we did not make a public records request to take a look at all the communications that the county had had on this initiation request. Unfortunately, even though we made that public records request back on October 9th, I only received an email just last night at 5:07 p.m. from the county stating that the first batch of those public records are now available and ready to be picked up, with another batch to be made available on December 19th, but that's not even the complete set. So that's one issue that I think is important to note, that we don't have the full universe of information in front of us to make this decision. And that was something that I noted at the planning group meeting when the county came to make their presentation, that we were somewhat, our hands were somewhat tied by the fact that we didn't have that full universe of information to examine. And I felt that that prejudiced our ability to make the proper recommendation. Nevertheless, we went forward and we heard from the county, and we asked quite a few questions, and I appreciate the applicants' cooperation. They've been nothing but courteous and professional in providing us with answers to our questions. Unfortunately, we didn't find that the initiation request met the criteria of policy LUD 10. Even though there are quite a few members of the Planning Commission, I hope you'll...
Mr. Valenti, do you have people that can
I
cede
don't, but
time
I
to
hope
you?
you'll indulge me with just another couple of minutes.
I will cede you my time. Susan Mornian, M-O-U-R-N-I.
Thank you.
Just 1 minute. We need to do some accounting. Okay, Susan Morian. How many minutes do you need, Mr. Valente?
I'd say no more than 5.
Okay, I have one. Susan Mornian. Thank you. Well, wait, we need to find each speaker, so we're doing this fair and equitably. Because I have names here, but I believe they've left. Naveen Waney.
He's left.
Michelle Folks has left. Don Burnett. Oh, would you cede time? Okay, there's our second. They filled out his form. Jan Brown, will you cede your time to Mr. Valenti? So there's 3 more minutes, Mr. Valenti.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
He's going to speak for 40 minutes
Excuse me?
before we're done.
Excuse me, let's hold a civil meeting.
I won't go that
It's
long.
only fair and equitable. Each speaker has a minute. You may cede your time. They have 1 minute per speaker today. Quentin Yates, Mr. Yates? Okay, there you go. You
That should be
have
sufficient.
4
Thank
more.
you very
Thank
much,
you.
and thank you to all the speakers who ceded time. As I was saying, there are certainly members of the Claremont Planning Group. I am one of them who are supportive of bringing affordable housing to Claremont, possibly even at this very site. What we wanted to do, however, was make sure, because of the community's outpouring of concern over this, we wanted to make sure that the proper process is followed, that the policy that needs to be applied is actually applied, and that we look at all the information and all the evidence before us to come to a fair decision on the process that's before us right now, not making an opinion about what we feel about the project that may or may not be eventually proposed, but to really look in a very discreet way at the question of whether the county has complied as required with policy LUD 10 and its subparts A, B, and C. And to that effort, my subcommittee and the greater planning group looked at each one of those criteria separately to come up with a separate recommendation for each of those criteria. And we did that specifically because we thought it would help the commission understand our concerns as specifically as possible. And so I'll run through that really quickly. The first subpart of policy LUD 10 is A, which requires that, pardon me for a moment, that the planned amendment or the proposed amendment is consistent with the general and the community plans. And we found by an overwhelming vote that that was not complied with. And the main concern was, I believe, the fact that there's traffic and parking issues that are not being addressed, that the neighbors are very concerned of. We went on to subpart B, which we also, by a fairly overwhelming vote, found that the county did not comply with. And the biggest issue with that, I think, is this concern that the amendment would take away the planning group's voice and the community's voice by creating a ministerial review process. So obviously, it's a little bit difficult for a planning group member in any planning group to vote to approve something that might eventually silence that planning group's voice down the road. So that's a major concern. And then the third LUD 10C subpart is the one that personally I found was the easiest call, because the first two I actually voted to recommend approval. And the reason was those two subparts are fairly subjective, and reasonable minds can disagree on whether the county complied with those two. The third, public facilities, that's a very objective, data-driven analysis. And the county representatives basically admitted that they had not done an analysis. I think they've just said that again today, have not done an analysis on the available public facilities. And as the rule requires, either you do an analysis and you determine that the public facilities are available to serve the proposed increase in density, or their provision will be addressed as a component of the amendment process. And the staff report and the county's position seems to be, well, we haven't done an analysis to see if the proper amount of public facilities are available, but we don't have to because there's going to be an EIR process, and we'll do the analysis then. But that's not what the rule requires. The rule requires that you either definitively find that sufficient public facilities are available, or you provide for them in the request. So to sum up, I would recommend that the commission consider continuing this agenda item for two reasons: to give the county more time to do a study of the public facilities that are available, or to come up with a provision for additional public facilities, such as the kind that are actually contemplated in the current draft of the community plan amendment, where it is made clear that additional public facilities are needed for the area. So I would recommend continuance of this agenda item to provide more time for the county to answer that question, and also to provide the requested public records, which I think this commission should also examine. Thank you very much, and appreciate the time you've given me today.
You're welcome. I think it's important. Please, I'm going to ask you to refrain. Let's keep this a civil meeting. You can speak your position by coming up, filling out a speaker's slip, and coming up to the podium.
And before I leave, I just wanted to offer a moment if anyone has any questions about the planning groups.
We will let you know. Thank you.
Okay, I've got to go. So if you had any questions for me, this would be the opportunity. Again, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. I want to reiterate today's decision is to determine if the initiation, there's three findings, three criteria that need to be met to initiate these requests for a plan amendment. If the Planning Commission initiates the amendment, it does not adopt the plan amendment today. I want to make that very clear. Also, by recommending a plan amendment initiation that neither is in favor or denial does not imply, it's not explicit, that the Planning Commission, the city staff, or the City Council are approving or denying it. What this means, to the points that Mr. Valenti just made and the applicant has made in their presentation, is this allows a process to begin so that materials can be provided and questions that are raised about the initiation request can be addressed in detail. And in the staff report, there are very clearly items that are to be analyzed and evaluated. So your opportunity here is to speak in either that the criteria cannot be met, so you don't support the plan amendment initiation, but it's not that the initiation today is being approved. What it does is it starts the process. And so I would advise, if there are issues that you have concern, as Mr. Valenti just raised, that you want to see addressed through this process, focus your comments on those issues to be addressed. And the applicant, those that are in favor of this initiation, will also be discussing their concerns and what they see moving forward in this initiation. But I want to make it really clear we are not voting today to amend the plan. So with that, I want to go back to the order in which we have our meeting, to those in favor. And I see that we've got a group presentation. Judy Leshkoff and Lisa Ellier? Sorry? Okay. And then Emily Cottrell. Are you still here, Emily? Okay, so Judy, you have 3 minutes. And if I can see the next person stand and wait in the side so we can keep moving. Marcia Strong. Terrific. Brian Gruters. Is Brian still here? And if you can also get in line. Thank you very much.
I'm not going to need 3 minutes. Can I cede some of my minutes to one of the others?
I want to keep this clean, so no.
Good afternoon. I'm Judy Leshefka. I'm a 30-year resident of Claremont, and I'm a member of the steering committee for the Claremont Coalition on Homelessness. I live a block and a half from the proposed development, and I actually share the concerns of all those who are here. But we have to start somewhere. If the initiative is approved, we really want to have a community conversation with the developers, with the county, to get a viable plan. Claremont, as was highlighted earlier, desperately needs affordable housing. Just at a real personal example, my 25-year-old grandson still lives with us. He works full-time, goes to school. He can't find a place to live. A room in a house costs $800. His friends are still living with their parents. The children, the ones who have graduated, have had to move out of the area because they can't afford to live there. I know seniors who have had to move out of the area. Claremont is becoming an area where only high-income people can live. And that is not how it...
Excuse me, please don't interrupt or we will stop the hearing entirely.
Yes.
And I don't think you've been waiting here for 3.5 hours for me to close the testimony. Thank you.
It's my opinion that it is an area where only people with higher income can live. Those who are coming in, not those who are already here and established. But those who are coming in have a hard time finding it. We haven't had an update to the community plan for 30 years. I think it's time we look at the current needs. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just ask that everyone please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Cottrell. I'm also here as a member of the Claremont Coalition on Homelessness Steering Committee to speak in favor of allowing the county to initiate the community plan amendment. We believe that the county has met the requirements of LUD 10. In addition to the city's overall goals for planning, it meets the criteria of the Claremont Community Plan. Our community plan was drafted in 1989, halfway through the millennial generation's birthing period, and it was originally meant to apply until 2004. It's outdated. It acknowledges that it was intended to serve as a dynamic document and a guideline for our community. It supports both the post-World War II single-family housing that is present, that many of us live in, and also still encourages development of higher density housing, particularly near our commercial and transit corridors. The amendment will serve important public interests of increasing affordable housing in a housing crisis. It also includes supportive housing components. The public benefit would be left to Claremont and our intergenerational families.
Please wrap up.
Okay. Also, we have the idea that Claremont doesn't have public facilities and services. We have so many. It's Claremont. We're in the heart of San Diego. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marcia Strong. I'm a resident of Claremont for the last 40 years, and I'm actually here speaking on for Lisa Eiler. But I want to say that, first of all, thank you, Commissioner Pearson, for clarifying what's actually happening today, because a lot of us really didn't know. And also just want to go on record that I support Mr. Valente's position and explanation of what this is all about. So that's from Marcia. Now from Lisa Eiler, a Claremont resident since 1996 and a member of the Claremont Coalition on Homelessness. I am in favor of the proposed initiation of the amendment because replacing the abandoned crime lab facility on Mount Etna would bring much needed affordable housing to our community. This is an opportunity for Claremont to show its community spirit and ingenuity by working with the county to maximize benefits and minimize downsides of the project. Many people are one serious illness away from losing a roof over their heads, and there are young adults who grew up in our neighborhood who cannot afford a place in their own neighborhood. Service industry workers cannot afford to live near where they work, leading to traffic and high employee turnover for businesses. The Mount Etna proposal, if it is done right with engagement of the community from this point forward, will benefit Claremont. Therefore, Lisa supports and I support initiating the amendment process. Thank you.
Following Brian is Nathan Schmidt. Are you here? No. Lori Sorensen? No. Betty Boyer? And Micah Perlin. So if I've called your name, please stand to the side and follow Mr. Gruters. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for giving us time to speak. I live in Claremont, about a mile from the site, with my wife and kid. He's 9 months old. Also have lots of concerns about safety in the neighborhood, but not due to this issue. We need affordable housing, and we need it bad. It's all well and good to laugh when people talk about low-income folks moving to the neighborhood, but 70% of people in San Diego can't afford to buy a home. That's according to the Housing Commission's recent study. That number's higher in our neighborhood. That's not even taking into account rental units. Which of course is a whole separate issue there as well. So we feel that it's very important that we move the ball forward whenever we have the chance to do so on affordable housing in our neighborhood. I think that the correct way to do this, and we believe firmly that there needs to be a community engagement process, 100%, but that's any development ever in the history of this city. There needs to be a community engagement. So we would never try to shut that down, but the way to do that is during a community plan amendment. So we firmly move to have it move forward. Thanks a lot.
Nathan?
Yes, I'd like to give my time to Buddy from Chelsea Investment Corporation.
And what is your name, sir?
Buddy Bohr, who's next?
Okay, so Betty Bohr and Nathan Schmidt. Betty, you'll have 2 minutes.
Great, thank you. So good morning, Commissioners, or I say good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Buddy Bohr. I'm the Director of Acquisitions with Chelsea Investment Company. Chelsea is a San Diego developer of affordable housing, and we have developed over 10,000 affordable units at the cost of over $2 billion. Through an RFP process conducted by the county earlier this year, Chelsea was selected as the ultimate developer of the Mount Etna Crime Lab site. The Chelsea team proposed a vision for the development of this site that met the criteria outlined within the RFP, and it assumed that the county would be rezoning the property for higher density residential development. Our vision for the development is an intergenerational affordable housing project composed of a seniors community and a family community. The incomes of these residents would range from approximately $20,000 annually to $84,000 annually. A certain number of homes would be set aside for persons or families with developmental disabilities, and a senior center open to the public would be incorporated into the design. But let me be perfectly clear. This is just a vision, and it's a vision we presented in response to the RFP. We have not yet begun the process of soliciting input from the Claremont community. Now, you're likely to hear many residents today stating that they've been left out of the process and that this development has been designed without their input, and that could not be further from the truth. The fact is that this process hasn't started yet. By voting to allow the county to initiate the CPA process, you are allowing us to start the process. Chelsea has completed a detailed community outreach plan, which we intend to commence early in 2019, specifically to obtain citizen input and allow the community to help us shape our proposed development. Now, there's also been quite a bit of confusion about the residents that would be part of our community. Stated simply, they're going to be seniors and families between $20,000 and $80,000 a year. I urge you to approve the project, or approve the
initiation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Sorensen, followed by Micah Perlin.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Sorensen. I work at the San Diego Regional Center. We serve over 30,000 individuals with developmental disabilities. When I ask people with developmental disabilities if they could have anything, what would they want, thinking they'd want a trip to Cabo or to win the lottery, they tell me they want affordable housing. This project, well, having a place to live is very important to them. Many of them are living with families, they live on Social Security, they are members of the community just like you and I are. These people are a cross-section of all people in San Diego and deserve an affordable place to live. As the regional center, we provide support to these individuals living in affordable housing, and as such, San Diego Regional Center supports this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Micah Perlin. I'm here with We the People San Diego County. We believe in a affordable, sustainable, livable San Diego County. When we look at this map here and we look at the various businesses that are all clustered there together, CVS, Vaughn's, Kohl's, the individuals that are working at those businesses, they're not making wages that would allow them to live within a walkable distance of this commercial area. This kind of a building would allow for that. And so thoughtful planning with the community, it can actually reduce traffic by allowing community workers to actually become community residents and not get pushed out. I'd also just like to point out that the idea of low income, pretty much most San Diegans now would qualify for low income. If you're a single parent, 2 kids, and you're working as a teacher, you're going to qualify as low income. If you're working at any of these businesses in the center of the community, you're going to qualify as low income. So we need to start having a broader understanding of what affordability means for working families and those of us that have been in San Diego and want to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further speaker slips in favor of the plan initiation. If there's no one else here to speak in favor, I'll go back to the list of those in opposition, and I will call names as before. George Henderson. And I had that it was a group presentation, but I think the other person has since left. Is it just you, Mr. Henderson?
Susan donated her time to Matt.
Thank you.
Which put the squeeze on me.
Oh, okay. And then next is Sherry Dixon, followed by Dana Sortwell. So if you could come forward, and Jason Adams, and stand to the side, that way we can keep the speaker list moving.
Thank you.
Did you submit a speaker slip? Sorry, there's a lot of paper. I have 2 piles, 30 in one and 29 in the other, so be patient. Thank you. And there was another gentleman? Okay, Dana and Jason are ceding time to George. Mr. Henderson, is that correct? Okay, so 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm pleased and very happy that this applicant wants to serve vulnerable populations by providing housing solutions. But I'm confused by the convoluted path that they've chosen. They're not seeking to amend the community plan for a housing project. Instead, they're looking for expediency. They can save a few months by creating their own specific plan on an island within our community core. That's an intensely active center of Claremont. 2 years ago, the planning department impressed us with reasons to update the community plan. Those include a comprehensive look at land uses, diverse housing, mobility, and infrastructure. The need for a comprehensive plan was so compelling that, as you know, land use was withdrawn from our two specific plans at Moreno Corridor and the Balboa Station. Well, the idea of a community plan update made so much sense to me that I seized upon the opportunity to volunteer, and I am on that subcommittee. But I'm speaking here as an individual. That community core is what makes Claremont tick. Our plan update subcommittee now can understand that changes in that core require a comprehensive understanding of the big picture. I ask you to consider that premature overdevelopment of a small parcel within that core could have horrible effects on a carefully considered big picture plan. Let's not set a precedent that encourages multiple bespoke specific plans for small parcels. Nevertheless, affordable housing in the core can and must be part of the big picture. I urge you to validate the investment of thousands of hours by volunteers and staff. Don't undermine us. May I please respectfully empower you to show your support for the plan update process. We are working on urban design and land use right now. Our SEQA documents will go out in the middle of 2019, which is right on par with the applicant's desired timeline. Here's an idea. Perhaps this commission could ask the applicants if they would like to step back, take a deep breath, and perhaps join us within the community plan update process. They could seize this opportunity to embrace their neighbors and earn support to help guarantee the success of their humanitarian mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sherry Dixon, followed by Glory Edwards. Is Glory? No. George Haggard, you'll be next. Irene Maglanese. Is Irene here? Okay, so if you could please come forward and we can start a line. Thank you. Ms. Dixon.
My name is Sherry Dixon, and I am requesting that we deny the initiation based on our November election. Affordable housing was approved by the voters in San Diego by 51%. I think that we have had a report in the Union paper that 36 units were allotted in Encanto, 95 units in Nestor, and 50 units in San Ysidro. The 448 units that are proposed here in Claremont just blows that out of the water. I think that we need to scale that back, not change our zoning, still have affordable units in Claremont, but the scope of it is just too much, and I think that if we have the initiation approved, then we're out of the water. Please consider all the Claremont residents that live here currently. Thank you.
Thank you. George Haggard.
Hi, I'm George Haygood. Thank you for having us here today. Please don't make our community a slum just so investors can make more money, the county, for a 99-year lease. Why did you use a 10% buyout for 40 years of growth if you cared for low income? If you build it, they will come. 2,000 people and 1,500 cars, wow, on 4 acres. We have low density and 30-foot height limits. We should keep it. This project is not low density. There's not enough parking. No added value detracts from the neighborhood. Public facilities are inadequate to serve the proposed increase. It failed to pass the Claremont Community Board. The buses run empty. No one is going to give up their cars. Crime will be rampant. We've been overcrowded for 30, 35 years. Traffic is terrible. We don't want to be like New York City. It looks like this care of people is our new industry. Fine. Do it with a thoughtful way. Plenty of parking. 30-foot high is a nice building. It's not a cheap one. We don't need a new ghetto. It's like putting 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. It's going to be a big mess. Look at Chelsea.
Can you please wrap up?
The bad reviews they have in Mission Valley. Look at the Cali Way, Sorrento Towers. There's no parking there for 40 years. It's not an experiment. Thank you.
Irene just gave you more time.
92
No, that wasn't that.
here. But anyway.
No, that wasn't. What is your name, ma'am?
She wants me to keep going. Okay.
Well, just a moment. Ma'am, did you submit a speaker slip?
She did. That's Gloria. I don't have much
Linda?
more.
Gloria.
You just called
her. Oh, thank you.
3.
You may.
Yeah, we need to do it in a thoughtful way. There's no parking at Sorrento Towers. It's been that way it's been there since 1975. It's on Cali Way. It's a crime scene. Even the name of the project, Messina, is what they use in Sicily for the mafia. They use that for a last name. It's just a bad scene all the way around. Use this spot for an old folks' home or to treat dementia, Alzheimer's. We love Claremont and we hate to see it messed up. Crime, traffic, pollution, too many people in one place. Thank you. Oh, this is like the Fox Garden, the hen house. The city planners are not adding the 330 units on Mount Oliphant. We do not want a 99-year lease. This whole thing stinks. Claremont is Section 8. We got thousands all up and down Claremont Mesa, houses, duplexes, apartments by the tons of those. We're against it. I have 92 people in my neighborhood signed a petition against it. And like I say, it's Fox Garden Hen House. Thank you.
Let me go back to my list and make sure I'm correct. So Irene, followed by Linda Maskovich, followed by Jan Scanlon. Is Jan here? Okay. That's what I'm going to do.
Can I turn? Fresh rings. Good afternoon. My name is Irene Magallanes, and although I do not live in the Claremont area, I live near it. And I frequent that area because, frankly, when I drive around town, I don't say, okay, I'm in this district, I'm in San Diego. Okay. My concern has been addressed by Mr. Valente and a few other speakers in that this is being rushed through. We feel like we're being bulldozed, and I respectfully ask that you make a continuance so that we can get more information on this. How is it we are going to make an informed decision when we don't have the information available to us that's pertinent to make that decision? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Maskovich. Thank you, everybody, for putting up with us and our emotions. I'm not a NIMBY, I'm a YIMBY. We do want things in our community. It breaks my heart. I'm an old broad, and it breaks my heart when I go into our Claremont area and see all the older people now not being able to have homes, someplace to live. This project is not correct for what we need. It is breaking the zoning laws, and everybody's talked about that already. But the big thing here also is we don't have fire protection. We had a presentation. There's not enough staff. There's not enough equipment. There's no money in the budget for the next 3 years, I think they said, to update our firehouse. You put another 400 units into an area that's already understaffed and under-equipped, you got a huge problem on your hands. So, and the parking. It's an affront to say to people, because you are low income, you don't have a car. Crazy.
Thank you. Jan Scanlon, followed by Greg Andrews. Is Mr. Andrews still here?
It's Jane Scanlon.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And Lynn Booth. Is Lynn here? Thank you.
So just so you guys know, every time we have spoke, we have been given less and less time. The last time we spoke, we were given 30 seconds. I'll try to speak fast. There has been no conversation with the county in regards to this project. I was at the first Marston meeting, and I was shocked to find out that this project was proposed without any input from the community and already taken advantage of changing our community plan. This is my 4th meeting, and every meeting we have been to, we are given new information in regards to the amount of units and the parking situation. Can we please have a conversation in regards to the project with the current regulation of height and density? My issue has been the parking and AB 744, which reduces the minimum parking requirement of affordable housing. I would really like everyone to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Andrews, followed by Lynn Booth. Lori Chapin, followed by Rick Richards.
My name is Greg Andrews. I've been a resident since '71. My wife since 1960. The overwhelming thing here in my brain is expedite, 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 not get it right. The county was given issue expedite from the supervisors. Mayor Faulkner has said expedite. I understand they want to make their brownie points for taking care of the homeless, and we want to take care of those that need help. But this is too much in too small a spot, and they're just shoving it down our throat like a runaway train. We need to have some time to back off and take a look at what really fits on 4.0 whatever acres, not 1,000 freaking people. I'm sorry. It's too much, too fast. I agree with the others that have said, please, step back, let's take a break. Let's not initiate anything right now until we get some more information on specifically what the county has in mind, because we've been hearing everything but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lynn Booth, and I'm referring to the report to the Planning Commission as you had suggested, and I would recommend that you not move forward with this initiation request because it says right here in the report, quote, a recommendation of approval or denial of the initiation is based upon compliance with all, and I repeat, all, 3 of the initiation criteria contained in the general plan. I think the county and the planning department for the city have the cart before the horse because the housing element policy states that if it is determined that land designated for public use is not currently needed and will not in the foreseeable future be needed for public use, then they can go ahead with the affordable housing. But who has determined that there is no public use needed for that property? Why can't we have some facilities for the youth or the seniors in our community? We don't have a lot of facilities available as it is right now, and yet they're saying on the other 2 criteria, oh, do you have these facilities available? No, we do not. And the traffic circulation that's proposed by the developer here is going to empty out the single exit and entry right a half block from the main intersection of Mount Etna and Genesee. It's already choked with traffic. It is not doable, and I recommend that you say no to moving forward on the initiation request. Thank you.
Thank you.
We just don't have enough time to talk.
Good morning. My name is Lori Chapin, and I'm a 30-year resident of Claremont. I'm also a retired city employee, 10 years with the city attorney's office and 10 years as general counsel for the retirement board. And in my experience, I haven't seen something so rushed as this project's been rushed, and that's what concerned me when I first heard about it on October 15th and learned that the county had issued an RFP to developers to assume that the zoning had been changed from commercial in our community core to high-density residential, and we were presented with a 5-story building that would house 454 units. It was just amazing. And so in response to what you're finding and going to the meetings where the Claremont Community Planning Group addressed the criteria for this initiation, it was clear that Subdivision A, they were not in compliance because it was not with our community plan compliance. It did not comply with LUDB 10 because there's no benefit to our community. And it also did not comply with LUD 10C. And here I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Volente because the public facilities can't even support the current 300 single-family residences in the area. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Rick Richards, followed by Thomas Leonard.
Thank you, Planning Commission. My name is
Donna Steele. I'm sorry. Is Mr. Leonard here? If you could please come forward. Donna Steele. Okay. Thank you very much. Donna Steele, if you could also come forward and wait, and Candy Cummings. I apologize. Thank you for letting me do some.
Sure. My name is Rick Richards. I'm a former condo converter. I'm a Claremont, Mount Etna resident on Mount Hay Drive. So my focus this morning is on the proposed CPA's non-compliance with criteria for initiation of the amendment to the City San Diego General Plan, and specifically LUD 10A, B, and C non-compliance. The proposed CPA request is not consistent with the goals and policies of both the General Plan and the Claremont Community Plan, nor any community plan-specific amendment criteria. Aside from the zoning change, the building height increase to proposed 60 feet and massive density increase being requested in the CPA is also requesting change to review the process from discretionary to ministerial, leaving the community planning group and the voice of Mount Etna and Claremont and the residents out of the decision-making process. These things are counter to the General Plan and the Community Plan. B, specifically, 10B, the proposed CPA does not provide any additional public benefit to the community as compared to the existing land use designations. In fact, when the crime lab was closed, the community lost 100 jobs. This proposed CPA will allow recovery of only a few jobs. C is in non-compliance as well because there are not facilities including fire, transportation. This is not a TPA designation as you were led to believe on the property, and it's inadequate street parking near the project.
Can you please wrap up?
I will. There was. Thank you. Thank you.
And your name?
There are also numerous health and safety issues with the possibility of approving the proposed CPA, including already congested traffic on Mount Etna, west of Genesee, with an official count just taken on November 27th of 5,544 cars in a 24-hour period, with 5,000 considered congested on a two-lane residential street. We're already congested. Understand that there's already a large amount of cut-through traffic as well in the Mount Etna neighborhood, skirting the Balboa-Genesee intersection. Also, a large underground high-pressure gas pipe exists just west of the proposed location. Why is no one talking about this? Along with two large high-tension power line terminals. It is a very dangerous place to put high-density housing. These items are just the tip of the iceberg. If I had 20 minutes, I could fill it with many, many other issues and concerns surrounding both the proposed CPA and the proposed development project by Chelsea, which I just handed to the commission. The reason the Claremont community is in an uproar is because Chelsea put out this proposal of what they plan to do. That is one reason why there are so many people here today. I'm confident that most of us here really believe affordable housing is a good thing and necessary, but common sense says that changing the zoning to accommodate a proposed project this size and density on a 4-acre parcel adjacent to 1,200 single-family homes is a very bad decision. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Donna Steele, followed by David June. If you can come forward. Jackie Cullen. You already, thank you. Lauren Fink. David June is after our speaker now, and then Lauren Fink. Are you here, Lauren? Okay. And Julie Wilds, if you could come forward too, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Donna Steele. I am a Claremont resident. I've lived in my home on Mount Foster Avenue since 1984. Access to my home is from Genesee is via the Mount Etna streets, and this is an unprecedented impacts to the single-family residential neighborhood for which this project will be adjacent. It's proposing over 400 units on 4 acres. That's 100 units per acre. adjacent to the San Diego Gas and Electric power corridor, but also adjacent to single-level residential development, single-family residential development. The intensity will overwhelm nearby residential with traffic, noise, air quality, sewer, stormwater, water quality, infrastructure, land use incompatibility with the heights of the buildings that are incompatible with the rest of the neighborhood. Public services will be affected. Access and response times will be affected. We recognize the need for affordable housing, but this is the wrong location for this kind of density. It's inconsistent with the adopted general plan land use LUD 10C, and there's no assurance that building heights will be stepped back from nearby residential development, that the design guidelines will be sufficient to protect those families, and provide preliminary planning efforts have anticipated redevelopment to increase housing in the northeastern portion of Balboa and Genesee, closer to existing higher density apartments. This site, if you look where the crime lab site is closest to the single family residential development, whereas there's other multifamily residential development that's in other areas within the community core where something more intense might be an appropriate transition. Furthermore, I would just like to say that I especially concur with Mr. Henderson's comments that he made, and thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is David June. There's many reasons why this should be shut down immediately. It doesn't meet any of the criteria to move forward. It also doesn't meet the City of San Diego's core services of public safety. I'm going to talk quickly on fire safety right now. In the community of Claremont, we have about 85,000 people. There are 8 firefighters that service the Claremont community. Per NFPA standards, it should be 1 firefighter per 1,000 citizens. So if you do the math, you're about 10,000 short of where you should be for the citizens of Claremont. We did an independent study in early 2000s that the city of this size needs 22 stations and 12 fast attacks. We've added 1 fire station and 2 fast attacks. So now adding a high rise, you don't even understand the minimum requirements that are needed to respond to that facility. You're going to need at least 35 firefighters to respond to a high rise. So I'm telling you, this is not only wrong, but it's criminally dangerous if you move forward with this. So I suggest you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lauren Fink. Thank you for your full attention. I want to say that the experts of Claremont, the CCPG, and the community itself are not in support of the initiation of the community plan amendment. And respectfully, I'm here to remind you that the CCPG is advisory to you, the Planning Commission. And they voted that this does not comply with the general plan criteria for initiation of a community plan amendment. In the city's report to the Planning Commission, 2 policies are used in an attempt to show that the amendment is consistent with the general plan. The first of these policies says that publicly owned sites should be considered for mixed-use designations that promote affordable housing. The proposed designation removes the required commercial component and does not require any affordable housing. The second policy says housing should be provided for very low-income families and special needs population. Again, the proposed zoning does not require any affordable housing. In fact, the current zoning allows for 119 residential units, but is only allowed if those units are 100% affordable through a Process 2 permit. If you want to promote affordable housing, isn't it better to have a guarantee?
Can you please wrap up?
It's important to remember that this rezoning does not include a proposed project. The potential project would simply need to comply with zoning, so there's no guarantee of affordable housing. It's admirable that the city officials are ambitious to implement affordable housing developments, but please do not disregard viable input and do not increase density at any cost. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Julie Wilds, Natalie Bolin, Stuart Johnson, Richard Jensen. If you could all come forward. Please, thank you.
I guess I have to stand up tall. It won't come down. Oh, there it goes. I'm Julie Wilds. I am a member of Claremont Cares. I am a 27-year wife of a naval officer, and I have lived in 19 different communities since the age of 20. I have lived in Baltimore, I have lived in Washington, D.C., and I've lived in Detroit. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. I know about bad projects. I have had to run red lights to not be stopped near a project. This isn't about projects. We need housing. We need 10 to 20% of inclusionary housing in every single development that goes into San Diego. We lost over 9,000 affordable units because of in lieu fees since 2005. $85 billion worth of housing. That's not cool. So now Claremont is the recipient of 448 possible units because the city has done a poor job and they have made an emergency out of this issue. It's not my emergency. It's not your emergency. It's not Claremont's emergency. It's the city council's emergency. We need time. We need you guys to put a continuance on this initiation. We need to hold back and we need to do this right so we don't have Cabrini Greens. We have projects that will last 99 years and stay in good shape, not be torn down in 20 because they were poorly done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, hello, Honorable Commission, and thank you so much for working through your lunch and your patience. I know your time's valuable, and you may have missed the email from our lawyer, Everett Delano, but I wanted to highlight a few points for you in case you hadn't had a chance to read it.
Can you please give your name for the record?
I'm sorry, my name's Natalie Bolin. I do want to say first, though, that we are not against helping our neighbors in need. This is a protest against density and circumventing the CCPG process. We want development in our community that supports our community, and there is an alternative that would both maintain commercial use and address the city's need for affordable housing. It's LU-4 in the general plan. And that would allow for both commercial and residential development. Our issues here are that a general plan land use and community planning element policy requires the commission to ensure any request for initiation must be consistent with LUD 10A, B, and C. This initiation is not consistent with any of those. Could anybody see their time? Thank you.
Did you complete a speaker slip? And your name again, please? Okay. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you
add another
so
minute.
much. The initiation will impact the economy of the community. It requests a zoning change, and it would increase the residential population while eliminating the availability of commercial facilities. It is in direct conflict with the Claremont Mesa Community Plan objective for commercial development number 5. Specifically, it does not meet the requirements for LUD 10C, and there is a lot of detail there in the email from our lawyer, one of which says that a high priority transit area should be within 1/2 mile of a major transit stop that is existing or planned. The stop that is planned is not available until 2001 and is more than 2 miles away. The city has not shown this site to be a true TPA. We urge you to go against this initiation because it will negatively impact traffic, parking, air quality, noise, greenhouse gases emissions, community character, aesthetics, and cumulative impacts, not to mention it seems in gross negligence of public safety due to the shortage of firehouses and firemen. Thank you.
Thank you. I have listed Stuart Johnson, Richard Jensen, and forgive me, Ponton? Okay, thank you. If you could all come forward.
Hi, Commission. My name is Stuart Johnson. I live in one of the single story houses directly on the other side of the SDG&E easement. This morning, I opened up my window to shed light so that I could get dressed. Everyone in those buildings will look directly down on my windows when I and my family, 3 young kids, get dressed every morning. That is what is proposed here. I acknowledge affordable housing is very important and we need it. The reason I'm opposed to going forward with the initiation is spot zoning is disenfranchising our community. The Claremont community is 1.5 years into the community planning process, and we need to step back, holistic approach, so that we don't have some monster of a thumb hunkering down on our community. I appreciate your time here.
Thank you.
Hello, y'all. Richard Jensen here. This does not qualify, I don't think, to meet all the criteria for the amendment plan. I just had to speak loud because I know we're all getting a little tired here. I'm sorry this was last on the list. This is a very, very important decision you guys are going to make today. It's not consistent with the community plan. It's not consistent being by a transit zone. And Claremont has over 1,000 affordable units as we speak within a 3-mile radius of this site here. Let me check my notes here. Claremont is an inclusive community. I know a lot of the commissioners are concerned that we don't want this, we don't want that. There's 1,000 affordable units already. We welcome every religion, race, creed in Claremont. We have every type of store you want, Middle East, Mexican, Oriental. We even have a mosque. So we don't want to have this taken away from us when we get to decide what happens. There is no rush for this. If you don't approve this, the county and city can still do all of their studies, which they should do before they present this. We're on a community plan update right now, and we would like to continue with this, and we don't want this taken away from us when we're studying. So I thank you for the extra time, and thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Hello. Joel Poynton, resident in Claremont for 20 years. Unfortunately, Claremont's interests have been underrepresented by elected city officials for over a decade. Therefore, the population of Claremont is already being underserved with community services. Case in point, the one-room Balboa Branch Library was designated inadequate in 2004, plans drawn up in 2006, scheduled for construction 2008, project put on hold. 10 years later, nothing is planned to meet a minimal upgrade to that facility. We presently house a dense population of at-risk individuals in the areas of Balboa, Bednell, Mount Abernathy, and Genesee. Dramatically increasing the density of these populations in this particular area is a disservice to the quality of life for those existing residents as well as the residents that you plan to put in these facilities.
Thank you. With that, those are all the speaker slips I have for people to speak. I have a series of slips here for people that have submitted in opposition but don't wish to speak. Is there someone that, did you want to speak? And your name, please, and did you fill out a form? Come forward, Karen. And there's another, what is your name in the back? Carol, and did you fill out a form too? Thank you very much.
Before my time starts, can I just, this map is kind of, in my opinion, deceptive to all of you.
You may give it to staff and they can pass it to us.
It doesn't fully give you
But please state your name for the record and use the mic, and your time starts. Thank you.
Okay. We recently witnessed the devastation from the Camp Fire of the community of Paradise, California. Thousands are now without homes, businesses, schools, and their livelihoods were changed overnight. The destruction of the community by the Camp Fire was unprecedented in the fact that more than 85 people lost their lives and 11 are still unaccounted for. The one major problem within that community was the fact that there was minimal ways of escape for those citizens. Now visualize all of our community, the Mount Streets west of Genesee and north of Balboa with the Tecolote Canyon Preserve to our west. And add in the potential of an addition of 400 plus units, approximately 1,200, give or take a few new people, apartment building on Mount Etna. Consider that the proposal is that many of those residents will be seniors. 200 residents is what we've been told by the Chelsea group of seniors. The rest would be low-income housing. The residents in their own set of needs in the event of disaster evacuation and only one proposed way of escape for the complex on Mount Etna. Now picture all of us, the existing community, trying to evacuate our Mount Streets plus the neighbors to the east and south of us in the event of a fire or other disaster. This project is ill-conceived. Let's not allow the county or city planning departments to put our community at risk. And lastly, it's real quick, it's been noticed at several meetings that the county will not be responsible for the infrastructure at the Mount Etna site because it is city property, which means that the city of San Diego will be responsible for the infrastructure maintenance, including street improvements, schools, libraries, public utilities. We all know the city currently is unable to keep up with the necessary maintenance of our roads, schools, libraries, and utilities, as already mentioned. How will they perform these necessary services without subjecting the existing community to a loss of services?
And can you state your name for the record?
Karen Lockshaw.
Thank you.
My name is Carol Sliceman. I've lived in Claremont 50 years. I have been serving on an ad hoc committee for 4 years. My question is, what happened to the day when elected and appointed officials actually represented the community in which they were either elected or appointed to serve? Please listen to and support all communities in San Diego in their future development, and please support Claremont today. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other speaker slips with people that would like to speak, but I will read for the record those that are here in opposition that have submitted an opposition form. Stephanie Pfaff, Barry Kenny, Sarah Parath, Alice Parath, Kelly Lower, Kay Reedon Ellis, Paul Carciamo, I butchered your name, I apologize, Chris Dedette, Lisa Johnson, John Ryan, Deborah Lane, Kristen Miner, Mike Dedette, Catherine Sobalski, Roxanne Kenny, Patricia Lippett, Carrie Little, Kyle Cullen, Jackie Cullen, Kay Megan Hestelin, Linda Burnett, Laura Cook, Joseph Cook, Victoria Harrison, Riza Olgobal, Hiroka Hukawa, Julian Para. Thank you. With that, I would close public testimony unless...
You didn't read my name. I put it in as a non-speaker against this. My name is Quentin Yates. It's in there.
Okay. We'll look through it. Thank you, sir. With that, I would close public testimony. I would also like to turn it to the planning commissioners. I know, Commissioner Whalen, you need to leave soon, so if you'll indulge, there's others in the queue, but I'd like to take you first before you leave.
Thank you. I First of all, I think we can make the findings to initiate because they're very low threshold. Second, I think it's a perfect site. I know the area very well. I actually go to the dentist across the street for about 30 years, and there's plenty of retail there, so I don't think there's a loss of that. I really do want to emphasize that this is really the first step. There's plenty of time for input from the community all along the way. Later, after I've gone, if someone could get an answer to why the county is doing CEQA on the demolition and the production of a ground lease, I would like to know what that is. I also want to say that we hear this all the time from, you can pick the name of the community where a project is proposed. It's always the same. Good project, good goal, just not here. I will say we have a dire housing shortage to the point where we've gotten a public health crisis, and we're 88,000 units short. Look at Chelsea's website. They do very good work. This is not their first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or even 10th project. And then I just want to ask people to remember that if we don't do something here, the state will do it for us. I direct your attention to Senate Bill 50, which was just reintroduced from last year. And if we don't do it, others will do it for us. And that means like minimum height limits of 55 feet, minimum floor area ratios of 3.2.5, parking almost zero. So I really urge the community to get behind the collaborative process that I know Chelsea will do. I'm glad they're here to hear everything, so you know what to, please don't wave signs. That's disrespectful. And with that, I'll stop.
Please be respectful, and let's hold decorum as a civil society, or you'll be excused and we'll close the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hoffman.
I got promoted. Thanks. Well, first of all, you've all been thanking us for our patience, but you guys have been the ones sitting out there for this long, so thank you very much. I know we all feel the same way for your patience. It's been a long day. Secondly, I definitely sense and hear what everyone's saying. I sense the fear from some of you. I'm hearing comments, the slums, I've heard ghettos, I've heard project, and I just want to let all of you know that affordable housing, and also someone mentioned homeless component. There is no homeless component in this project. Affordable housing is for police officers, it's for school teachers, it's for young professionals, it's for senior retired people. I think I'd like to dispel that fear of what affordable housing really means. This isn't going to be a slum, it isn't going to be a ghetto, so please keep that in mind. Now, we're required to make these findings, but we're also here to, I believe at least our past practice has been to suggest to staff things to look at as you go down the road. I believe I can make the findings. The one that I had most trouble with was the public facility, but if you read the findings specifically, it says the public facilities appear to be available. I think they do. In my mind, they appear to be available, but that has to be addressed. And that's one of the comments to staff is, that's real important to me. And I'm thinking not only sewer, water, those types, but traffic, infrastructure. So that's one of the things I'd like to see as we go down this path. I asked the question earlier of the applicant. I do have a concern with the loss of potential retail. I would love you guys to see if you can somehow, in Chelsea, incorporate some commercial into the project. First floor, possibly. You're going to have that many people. There's going to be a need that's going to lessen traffic. It's going to, if there's some real convenient commercial. So I would really like that looked at as you go through the process. As I mentioned, I'd like to see a much clearer picture of public facility provisions, but as I said, I can make that finding. And my last big concern, and this well, I've got a couple other comments, but the big concern is the ministerial process that would go along with this. I would like to see, and if I am here at the time that the amendment comes forward, I doubt I would be able to support it with a zoning that said this large of a project would go through a ministerial process. It should be some level of discretion. The need for public transparency and input, to me, far exceeds the need for an expedited process. So that would be very important to me. As Mr. Commissioner Whalen said, you will have, and if I'm up here, I will try and ensure I only have one vote, that you will have every opportunity for the comprehensive plan, the community plan update. You will have that opportunity. You'll be able to review, comment on the EIR. You'll be able to comment and speak on the community plan amendment. And I hope you'll be able to have that ability to review the project itself when it comes forward. But I am going to support the, in fact, did Jim make a finding or a motion? He did not? Okay, yeah, I guess because he couldn't vote on it anyway. But I'll go ahead and I'm going to make that motion to go forward with the initiation.
Let's see, Commissioner Gronowitz.
I agree with what my colleagues have said, but I find myself thinking about Hillel, which is somebody I grew up reflecting on who to believe on, thinking about being a human being in society. And he says, if I'm only for myself, what am I? And I must also be for others, and if not now, when? And I followed Claremont actually 36 years ago when I was first dating my husband. He lived in Claremont. I had my rehearsal dinner at Szechuan in Claremont Square, which is long gone. So I'm familiar with Claremont. It's a lovely community. And I want to be respectful of what you want, but what I find in so much of what's gone on is I find myself getting mad at many of you. I live in North Park. I chaired a planning committee. We take affordable housing. We take it in our very dense community. It's all next to single family. We also don't have enough public facilities. We also don't have good enough libraries and fire stations. And yet we try to make it work because we want to try to have some fairness because we believe everybody should be taking their fair share. And I know because when we did our community plan update, I looked at the statistics, and North Park was maybe number 6 on the list. I don't remember. Claremont wasn't even in the top 10. You only have about 300 or so units. It's in the staff report. And let me finish. The thing about it is, come to North Park and look at our affordable units. Our affordable units and the way they build them, they don't build Cabrini Greens anymore. They haven't done that in years because they all got torn down. They were a menace. But most of the affordable units that are being built now are actually better than market rate. They're beautiful. And most of them also have people on site. They are lovely. And they are 5 stories. You're not building high-rises. And there hasn't been anything built yet. And Commissioner Whalen is right. Partly by saying you support affordable, just not here, which you say over and over and over again, you are going to have it shoved down your throat. And that's going to affect all the rest of our communities. So it's time that if you want to have input, you need to start swallowing some of this and figuring out how you can make it work, because otherwise it's not just going to affect Claremont, It's going to affect all of us statewide. And then you won't have a choice, and that would really be sad. So I know that's not what you want to hear, but what am I going to say?
Excuse me, please. Commissioner Atsutsi.
First off, thank all of you for attending and giving your input. We really appreciate it more than anything else. There was one gentleman that came up initially at the very beginning that is participating on a community plan update for Claremont. Number one, you made the right decision. You have your say. And the most important thing is you're going to understand and be educated of how the process works. And you'll find out that everybody has the right to speak their mind at these meetings. This initiation that if we do or not pass it basically is the first step. And I'm going to be repetitive. It's the very first step. I mean, you'll be lucky if it gets approved that this project be completed in 5-7 years. I mean, that's in the ground. It's going to take at least another 2 years to get to that point of the project getting approved. But the most important thing, and I go back to that, is that we need your input because that's where these initiations, all these community plan updates, there's 3 of them going on in your area. There's Claremont, Serra Mesa, and what's the third one?
It's Claremont, Linda Vista, Claremont, Kearney Mesa, Mira Mesa, and University.
Yeah, all these community plan updates are going on right now, and the reason they're going on, we listen to the community. I mean, we listen to the citizens. The city council listens to citizens, and that's the reason these are all going on at this time. And it is important that we get your input. I mean, I think most of us are going to be here, hopefully, that when this initiation comes back to us with the good information, hopefully we'll see many of you here again, and you'll be on the other side favoring the project more than anything else. So, and I leave with this one last thing. Does anybody know Claire Bergner? Okay, who is he? Okay. And who developed it? Okay. How do you feel about Claremont? Are you very proud of it? Good. And I don't think it's going to get deterred. I think it's going to get better. You are living in a community within San Diego. It's probably the most ideal place that you want to live. And one of the reasons is it's focused in the center of San Diego. And you can get anywhere you want. And, as we progress, things are going to get better. But it takes a great effort and time. I'm a landscape architect. I work on projects. I'll give you 2 examples. A community park from start to finish, 7 to 10 years. A master plan community from start to finish, 15 to 20 years now to get it done. But in that process, the quality is there. I wish we can get it done sooner, but the quality is there. And the reason it is there is because we listen to the people that surround these projects more than anything else. And I, as a consultant, always listen to the community. Now, you're going to not get everything that you're asking for, but there will be a reason why this can be a part of the design itself and why the other elements can't. And there'll be logical reasons. And hopefully, everybody understands that. But when it's all said and done, most of the time, it turns out to be a great project and everybody's happy and they walk away. But again, I can't state that the process is very important and your participation is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are sage and thoughtful comments. This is really the first step. I, too, want to thank you for staying as long as you have. I want you to also know there was an equal stack of those people that are here to speak in opposition and an equal stack of those that are here but that are not choosing to speak. And your evidence of being here does speak volumes, whether you submitted a slip and spoke or whether you did not. This is the first step, as I said in the beginning of this hearing. We are in a housing crisis. In the 6.5 years I've been on the Planning Commission, we have asked every single community to contribute their fair share of housing, including inclusionary housing. Claremont Mesa is not being singled out. This is a significant property. This is an opportunity for the center of the community that's vibrant, that's active, with public transit that's nearby, with commercial property and retail uses nearby, to see the right kind of development. The fact that you're here is important, because I think what you brought up, what I heard from the testimony, is you want to hold the applicant accountable, that this represents and looks like what you want Claremont Mesa to look like. And you want to add, I thought there were some very important needs and program elements that you suggested that I'm thinking they took note. I'm hoping they took note, because in the end, this is your community and this is your project. We as a Planning Commission have a job to do. It's very difficult to find sites like this that have the opportunity to have this type of housing. I would like to see, I concur with my commissioners, I'd like to see a mix of housing. I know the applicant has preferred only housing. I'd like to see residential and commercial. Some of you brought up community services, child care facilities, daycare, community programs that allow for places for you to meet. This is your chance. Put your need list together. Put together what it is that's lacking within your community now as a resident, and also think about when you have new residents coming in. I think you're absolutely right. Multi-generational makes a lot of sense. Our senior population, our gray tsunami, is our greatest number of population. Many of you have talked and spoke about the need for senior housing. So I think for this project to succeed, it does need to reflect Claremont Mesa, and you're the best people to do that. As Commissioner Osuji said, it's a long and arduous process. We're just at the first step. I would echo the staff report that talks about public services, and you've raised incredibly important questions of fire protection and fire service. That needs to be clearly figured out. Are you underserved now, and by how much, and by added population, what else is needed? All of that due diligence needs to happen before this project can go forward. And that's through the process of this initiation. That doesn't mean that this is all studied in advance of today. I know it may seem like a very strange process. It may seem like things are already done and it's a done deal. That's not the case. So my suggestion to you, I agree, because of the size of the site, look at the setbacks. What is the building setback of the ground, and what are the step backs? The gentleman talked about the heights of these buildings. Look at the shadow effects. What will it have as an impact to you personally and your community? Also look at design guidelines. The site is within walking distance of commercial services, but there could be, I believe, more commercial services. So if you really want this walkable neighborhood, what else would you put on the site? So I'm not in favor of it just being residential. I would look to add onto this bullet list studying both residential and commercial.
Vice Chairman Pearson, if I could jump in right now, just to clarify, Laura Black, Deputy Director in the Planning Department. The application is also requesting a rezone to the RM39 zone, and I'd like to point out to the Commission that that does allow for limited commercial uses. So that would allow potential retail component as being discussed today. So I wanted to make that clear on the record.
And I agree with that. What I heard from the applicant is their preference now, and they're going to look into it, and I appreciate that, is for all residential, and I think that's the point the chairman's making, the point I was making. We'd really like to see you, if you could incorporate that into your planning.
Absolutely. And I think from what I heard, you know best what you need for your community, and now's the time to put that on the table. This is a negotiated process. This is a discretionary permit. So I'm encouraging you to work closely with them. I'm asking the applicant who has given us slides to be as transparent as possible. There's a lot of folks that are not in the community planning group. One gentleman did make the comment, yes, the Claremont Mesa Community Planning Group is your recognized group. They're the ones that will take votes and bring them back to the commission. I want to encourage you to go to those meetings. I know there's a subcommittee that Mr. Valente spoke to. I think it's really important that you work through those processes as a community member as well as an individual. And I'm sure there'll be websites. There will be plenty of opportunity. I'm looking at the applicant right now and hoping to see some nodding heads of a very robust community outreach.